Hi, ladies, and welcome back. I'm really glad you're here. I totally understand how you feel if you're ever home on a Saturday night and you're Googling, where can I meet single men over 50? I feel it for myself and I hear it from my coaching clients all the time. So today I am going to walk you through some of the places that increase your opportunities of meeting men naturally that are actually backed by how men in our age group spend their time. And I'm going to give you a framework so that you can use this to find great places to meet men in your hometown. That's the important part. My name is Michelle Burkhart. I'm a certified matchmaker and dating coach for women who are 50 and over. I help you navigate dating at this stage of life so that you can attract and date men who love you the way you want to be loved. We all have our own ways, and that's important. Now, before we get started, before we get into the good stuff, I just want to kind of bust a myth. When we were 20, we would go to bars and nightclubs. Well, unfortunately for now, statistically, that is one of the worst places to meet quality partners over 50. Men that age are just not out at last call anymore. They're home because they're up at 6 doing something active. So if your search criteria is nightlife, you're fishing in an empty pond. The young guys are there, but not our guys. The three things that do work share a pattern: repeat exposure, shared activity, and low pressure. You need to see the same faces more than once because that's how familiarity turns into comfort, and comfort is where attraction has room to grow. Now, those one-off single mixers, they're okay, but they put you in that high alert first impression mode, and that's the worst possible state for genuine connection. Keep in mind as we go through this list that I'm going to flag those places that hit all three of the criteria. And if you want to make sure that you never miss any of my juicy content, be sure to click the subscribe button below and the bell so that you will always be in the know and you can join my community for free. So let's start with activity-based venues because these are your highest percentage successes. First, I want to talk about hiking and walking clubs. They're number one, and they're number one for a reason. This is why it works so well. First, you're walking side by side. You're not walking face to face. So you take all the pressure off eye contact and small talk. Conversation happens naturally because you've got 2 hours together and you've got shared scenery to talk about. Plus, anybody who shows up at 8 o'clock on a Saturday, they've already filtered themselves into somebody who's health conscious and reliable. Now, if you live in a mid-sized town or larger, you'll probably have a local hiking club. You can also check out alltrails.com to find a club in your specific area. Next, and I promise you this works better than you might think, it's ballroom, swing, or line dancing. Dance classes in this age group are consistently popular with men. And what is great is that most instructors rotate partners throughout the class. So this means in one class, you might dance with 6 or 7 different people. That's 6 or 7 low stakes first impressions you were able to make in one evening. And you've got this built-in reason to talk between rounds. And the beauty of it is the class gives you your script. You don't even have to worry about opening lines. You just follow the steps and let the small talk happen in between very naturally, very organically, and you get some good exercise. Pickleball is also one of the stronger options out there right now, and there's a few solid reasons why. It's low impact enough to be sustainable long term, but it's also active enough to attract people who care about staying fit and social. And that tends to correlate with the kind of men women are looking to meet at this point. So this format forces mixing, not clustering. So most rec leagues and open play leagues work on rotation. So you play a game and then you rotate partners. And what that means is that over a 2-hour session, you might end up being paired with or against 8 or 10 different people. So compare that to a bar where you're stuck with whoever you walked in with. Now, pickleball is naturally social between points. There's just a lot of built-in downtime. You're waiting for courts, you're chatting between games, you're walking on and off the court together. It really is made for small talk, and it typically skews friendly and low stakes. Beginner clinics in particular have a very, oh, we're all bad at this, kind of vibe. So it does offer repeat exposure. A regular open play session or local club or league means that you see the same faces week after week. Now, one practical tip. Look for mixed doubles, open play, or social leagues specifically, because these are designed around rotating partners of both genders and they're not gender specific and they're definitely not competitive. Okay, so third, I want you to think about golf. Look for beginner leagues or mixed nights at your local course or driving range. A lot of courses run these specifically to build community. So if you don't golf yet, that's even better because the beginner leagues will put you next to men who are also new at golf, so they're not worried about how good they are, and it really helps create a much more friendly vibe. And fourth in this category is cycling clubs. Road or gravel groups often do these weekend rides that end up at a coffee shop. So you get the activity and then you get this low pressure social wind down built right into the same outing. So what's the common thread here? All of these give you multiple touch points with the same group of people over weeks or months. That's the repeat exposure I mentioned earlier. Don't go just one time and then judge the whole pool. Give it 4 or 5 sessions before you decide if you like it or if it's a good place to meet men. The first time is always the most awkward, and it does get easier every time you go after that. Also, I want you to match your ability and interests. If you're already great at pickleball or golf, don't join a beginner league. You will feel like a fraud, and that's its own kind of uncomfortable. If you hate pickleball, well, don't use that as one of your strategies because the men you meet there will expect you to play pickleball together, and then you'll be moaning and groaning the entire time, and that's not a positive at all. The second category is learning environments, and I think these are really underrated. And I think it's because they don't feel like dating strategies, but I think that's why they work so well. So I want you to think about community college or continuing ed classes. Think cooking, woodworking, photography, wine tasting. These classes meet weekly for 6 to 8 weeks. So again, you've got that repeat exposure and you're bonding over a shared beginner's mindset, which is really charming in a really good way. Nobody's going to try to impress anybody else when you're both terrible at pasta making in week 1. Book clubs are also a good choice, and I want to correct a misconception here. People assume book clubs skew heavily female, but the ones that are run out of independent bookstores tend to have a much more balanced turnout than what you would expect, especially if these clubs focus on history, biography, or nonfiction. It's definitely worth checking out your local independent bookstore. Here's one that sounds a little unromantic, but it works surprisingly well. Investment or retirement planning seminars. I know, not exactly candlelight, but think about the demographic. Financial firms and banks run these constantly, and the room is exactly the age range that you're looking for. It's low pressure, it's intellectually engaging, and you already have something to talk about. The topic is the seminar itself. So with that being said, I don't think going to a one-off retirement seminar offered by an investment company is a really great option because it's a one and done. Now, if they include dinner, that might expand your chances a little bit, and if you feel like a free meal, then go. The third category, and probably my favorite, is volunteering. Animal shelters, food banks, trail maintenance, crews, children's causes, veterans, and entrepreneurship. I mean, there is a nonprofit for everyone. Here's why this category deserves its own segment. It's because instead of just being lumped in, it actually puts you next to people who share your values, not just your hobbies. And shared values build connection faster than small talk ever will. There's also something to be said for seeing how people behave when there's no dating agenda in the room. You get to see how they treat people. You get to see how they handle frustration. You get to see whether or not they show up. And that's important. That's information you can't get from a profile picture on a dating site or a first date in a restaurant. Now, practical tip. Pick something that you would genuinely want to do even if you met 0 single men doing it. This way you never feel like you're wasting your time and you show up as your most authentic, most comfortable self. And that's really who people want to meet. So the fourth category is social or civic organizations. So I want you to think Rotary clubs, Lions clubs, Elks clubs, and similar service organizations. These are full of professionals and retirees in your age range, and they meet weekly or bi-weekly. So you guessed it, there's that repeat exposure again. Alumni associations are worth checking out too, because especially if your school runs regional chapter events, there's just automatic rapport because you maybe went there at the same time. And if you're part of a faith-based community, I would be doing a disservice to you if I didn't mention that. Statistically, faith communities remain one of the highest success venues for meeting a compatible partner in our age group. It's not for everyone, but if it's already part of your life, lean into that social side of it because you will be surprised how it just sort of flows. And then there's meetup.com. I love the idea of Meetup if you use it correctly. If you're in a larger city, they'll have singles groups for the 50 and 60s crowd. And that's good if you make yourself go consistently. Again, you have to see people multiple times. Now, you may not have these types of groups if you're in a smaller city, so I want you to expand your circle and look for meetup groups around things that you're generally interested in. It can be anything. It can be tech, bird watching, real estate investing, photography. Whatever you would like to do or like to try it. These all follow the same principle. Familiarity breeds comfort. And even if the group skews younger, remember those people have parents or grandparents. About 30% of people in our age group are unpartnered. So that means in a group of 100, 30 men are single. And it's not going to hurt you to meet somebody through a mutual friend or relative. I mean, that's a really easy way to try to meet people. So that's the list of where you can go. Now I want you to think about where you live exactly, and I want you to start doing some research. What can you do and where can you go that gives you repeat exposure, a shared activity, and low pressure? And I want you to just jot one place, one thing that you're going to check out in your own community. I want you to jot that down in the comments so that I know that you're with me. Now I want to talk about something that may be the real reason you haven't tried any of this yet. And it's not that you don't know where to go. It's the idea of walking into a room full of strangers. That can be daunting. It really can be. Maybe you were never good at it. I was really never good at that. I just want you to take a breath. That's completely normal. It really is. Here's the one mindset shift that changes everything. You don't need to feel confident before you go. Confidence shows up after you've done it a couple of times. You're going to feel awkward at first. So the goal isn't to walk in feeling smooth and sassy. The goal is just to show up. That's the whole win. Everything else is a bonus. This is why you only want to do things that you actually like, that you're actually interested in. Don't join a hiking group if you hate to walk. Think about what you would naturally like to do or try, and then start there. It also helps to remember this. The vast majority of people in that hiking group or seminar or dance class are really too busy worrying about themselves to worry about you. Nobody is running a mental checklist about your outfit or your small talk. Most people are just relieved when somebody else starts the conversation, so don't worry about it. You can start really small. Just pick a tiny, tiny goal, like saying good morning to a neighbor that you've never talked to, or asking a cashier how their day is. Ask a question in class. Small wins show you that you can handle interaction. Remember, the goal is to show up and try. The goal is not to meet someone. You have to start from where you are. If you feel like you get tongue-tied and don't know what to say, check out my video on how to meet men at the grocery store. You'll learn a strategy for creating the right type of conversation starters anywhere you go. Now, if your shyness feels like more than just rustiness, if it's intense enough that it consistently stops you from doing what you want to do, that's worth mentioning to a therapist. They can offer you structured tools that go further than a general pep talk that I could give you. And one more thing before we wrap up. You do not have to walk into any of these events or activities by yourself. If having a friend there makes the difference between you actually showing up or staying home, Bring a friend, right? But here's the part that nobody tells you. Don't bring your whole posse. I get it. There is safety in numbers, and that feels good. But think about it from the men's perspective. If you roll up into a hiking group or a dance class and you have 3 or 4 friends with you, you have basically built a small, cheerful fortress around yourself. And it's hard for anybody to break into that group because you're already laughing and sharing your inside jokes. Most men aren't going to walk up to a table of 5 women and try to insert themselves in the conversation. It takes a very specific type of boldness that most men don't have, whatever their age. 1 friend is a co-pilot. 4 friends is a group outing that just happens to have men nearby. So if you're going to go with somebody, here's the move. Split up once you get there. Get a partner for the dance rotation. Sit at different tables at a seminar. Walk at different paces on the trail. You can absolutely regroup afterwards and then debrief about who you talked to, and that's actually really part of the fun. But for the hour or 2 that you're actually there, let yourself be interruptible. Approachability, that is something that you can control. So you want to do that all for yourself. And if you truly don't have anybody to go with, that's okay too. Because going alone the first time is going to be one of those things that feels like a bigger deal in your head than it actually turns out to be once you get there. Most instructors or group leaders and regulars, they're used to people coming alone, so they go out of their way to make you feel included. So just try it. So bring a friend if it gets you out the door. Just don't bring your whole friend group. Give yourself room to actually be found. That's important. So I want to bring it all together with what I hope are solid takeaways. 1, recurring activities beat one-off events every time. You need repeated low-stakes exposure to build real familiarity. 2, anything that has a physical or creative component is better than a straight-up singles event. Dancing, hiking, cooking, something that you do together that takes the pressure off having to say the perfect thing. 3, go where your shared values are, not just shared hobbies. Volunteering and faith communities are solid choices because they represent who you are and who you want to meet and who you want to be in a relationship with. And 4, don't judge any venue or activity after just 1 try. Give it 4 or 5 tries. The first time you show up to something new, you're an outsider. By the 3rd or 4th time, you're part of the group. And that's when the real conversations start happening. 5, bring a friend if you need to, but let yourself split up once you're there. You can't be found if you're standing inside of a fortress. Here's the one thing I want you to walk away with. This isn't about chasing down a man at every event that you attend. It's about building a life full of things you genuinely enjoy and trusting that a life like that naturally puts you in rooms with compatible people. And if the idea of any of this still feels nerve-wracking, that's okay. Pick just one thing from the list. Put it on your calendar this week and let that be your whole assignment. Start from where you are. That's the most important takeaway. I really am honored that you spent your time with me today. If you've got a question, feel free to pop it in the comments. I may be able to make a video about it. So I hope you enjoyed this. Until next time, I want you to be sure to keep your heart open. You never know when you're going to find love. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all real soon. Bye-bye.